Or Zarua Latzadik, light is sown for the righteous and joy for the upright. It goes like this. Or Zarua Latzadik, Or Zarua Latzadik, Uleishe lev, Uleishe lev, Uleishe lev, Uleishe lev, Simcha. From the top. Or Zarua Latzadik, Or Zarua Latzadik, Uleishe lev, Uleishe lev, Uleishe lev, Simcha. Or Zarua Latzadik, Or Zarua Latzadik, Uleishe lev, Uleishe lev, Uleishe lev, Simcha. One more time. Or Zarua Latzadik, Or Zarua Latzadik, Uleishe lev, Uleishe lev, Uleishe lev, Simcha. We turn to page 142, welcoming in Shabbat with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitchem, Tzeitchem leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
So there's about as many people here as could fit in my living room. Actually, our living room's not that big, but it's intimate. And so let's come and let's all stand together as we light the Shabbos candles, just like you might have done at home or maybe you didn't get a chance to do. And I know we have some people visiting for the first time. Come as close as you feel COVIDly comfortable. And I know we have some people visiting. Mike, you want to introduce your sister?
Yeah, this is my sister, Liz Block, from South Africa. First time we've seen each other in almost 20 years, physically.
Welcome, Liz. We're glad you're here.
My name's Abby Fitch. I'm from and we live in Vancouver and we're members of Or Shalom.
Hi.
And we're glad you're here. Anybody else? I think we all know each other beyond that. Okay, good. So as my mom would say when she lights Shabbat candles at home, she waves her arms 3 times to bring her family close, or to bring Shabbat in. There's a technical reason why we do this, which is to make a separation between the act of actually lighting the candle and blessing for the beginning of Shabbat, but I like my mother's reasoning much better. So.
Do you want to light the other two?
I do. I was going to put, miraculously, they were going to light themselves. That was going to be the thing.
That was a good practice.
Yeah. I think it worked.
Yeah,
It did.
thank you. That was a good trick.
No, I'm not giving up.
Come on.
Ah, perfect. Worked perfectly.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Do you want to lead from down here? I think
Sure.
we will. We're going to come closer to you.
Okay, just give us a second here. We need our books. And
Shay, we're going to move down to the lower bima.
here we go.
I think you should be on this side,
Okay.
though.
Great. Okay, so we're going to move on to Kabbalat Shabbat. We'll start on page 130. And just so you know, the words that we started our service with, or Zarua, are actually in Kabbalat Shabbat. They're on the bottom of page 132 in Psalm 97. So these are words that we can sing every week, but I like singing them especially this month as we think about the light as it gets darker outside and preparing for Hanukkah. So that's why we started with that, and now we're going to continue. Psalm 95, Lechu Neranena, page 130. Lechu Neranena l'Adonai, Nariya letzur Yisheinu. Lechu Neranena l'Adonai, Nariya letzur Yisheinu. Nekadma fanav betodah, bizmirot nariya lo. Nekadma fanav betodah, bizmirot nariya lo. Yalai lai 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 lai, yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai 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 lai, yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai lai. On the next page, Psalm 96. Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai, parchu shemo, basru miyom leyom yeshuato, sapru bagoyim kevodo, lechol ha'amim nifleotav ki gadol Adonai, umul al meot, no ra'u al kol Elohim, lai lai lai, yalai la lai lai, yalai la lai lai, yalai la lai lai, yalai yalai, yalai la lai lai, yalai la lai lai, yalai la lai lai, yalai yalai, yalai la lai lai, yalai yalai, yalai la lai lai, yalai la lai lai, yalai lai lai, yalai lai lai, yalai lai lai, yalai lai lai. Page 133, Psalm 98. Mizmor shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, ki niflaot asa, hoshia lo yamino, zroa kodsho dia, Adonai Yeshuato, le'nei hagoyim gilad tzidkato, zachar chasto ve'emunato, le'beit Yeshuat Eloheinu, Hariul Adonai, Kol Haaretz Pitzchu v'ranenu v'tameru, Yalai, lai, 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 yai, lai, lai, Yalai, lai, 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 yai, lai, lai, Yalai, lai, 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 yai, lai, lai, Yalai, lai, 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 yai, yalai, lai, yalai, yai, lai, 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 yai, lai, lai, Yalai, lai, 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 Yalai, lai, 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 yai, lai, lai, yai, lai, 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 lai. Page 138. We're going to move to Lecha Dodi, welcoming in the Sabbath bride with this beautiful melody we've been doing by Joey Weisenberg. I think it's a good way to get into this tune. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, ishmi'anu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Verse 2. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor haberacha, merosh mikeder nesucha, sof maaseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Verse 3. Mikdash melech ir melucha, kumitzei mitoch hafecha, rav לשבת במקבך, והוא יחמול עלייך אלה. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Verse 5. Hitoreri, ki ma'orech kumi ori, uri, shizaveri, kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela.
We'll rise and face the door to greet the Sabbath bride. Verse 9.
Boi v'shalom, ateret bala, gam besimcha u'betola, toch emunei am segula, boi chala,
back towards the front.
All together. Olecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Olecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekavela.
We can remain standing, actually. We'll turn to page 140, Sadiq Katamar. We could also sit down, but this might lead to dancing. I grew up going to a summer camp where this was a Riku Deyam. This was a song to dance to. So if you want to, just go right
Sure.
ahead.
Tzaddik Katamar
Maybe not this version to dance to.
Kerez Valvanon Yizger Shetulim Bebeit Adonai Bechatrot Eloheinu Yafrichu Od Yenuvon Beseva Desheni Merananim Yiu Lehagi Ki Hashar Adonai Tzuri Velo Avlatabo.
We'll continue to stand as we turn to page 263 for Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתגדל שמי רבה.
Amen.
ועלמא דברי חירותי וימליך מלכותי. וחייכון וביומכון וחיי כל בית ישראל. בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך. לעולם ולעלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרון אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Be seated. On page 265 is the prayer for evening Ma'ariv Aravim. One of the curious things that I was talking before about the Shabbos candles and the separation that we make by covering our eyes so as to not light candles to begin Shabbat. But one of the sort of curious things in Judaism is that Shabbat begins when Shabbat begins. We don't have any say in when that happens. We can end Shabbat all the way till Wednesday of that week, even though there are 3 stars in the sky at Saturday evening perhaps. Well, probably hopefully Saturday evening. We can extend it. But we start Shabbat when Shabbat starts. The time to sanctify and to rest is not arbitrary. It's not up to us. I think about that sometimes when we are at this time of year and the day ends when the sun sets. When that sun goes down at 4:15 in the afternoon, we might still be working, but it is over. It is so dark. But there is a blessing in that also. I think that it brings us all hopefully home sooner and with hopefully our family and our friends, reminding us that there is only so much light in the day, only so much work that can be done. And perhaps if we didn't have artificial light, we'd get more rest in these darker times of year. And so we thank God for evening, even though it is dark and a bit cold outside. Page 265. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhma poteach sha'arim, ובתבונה משנה עיתים, ומחליף את הזמנים, ומסדר את הכוכבים, במשרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור. ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו.
אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני,
שמו.
המעריב ערבים. אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אתה. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך, לעולם לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, ושעתם להות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אלוהיכם אמת. Page 270. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נור עדילות אוסף אלה, מלכותך ראו בניך. בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה לי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ואין.
My wife Sharon has been making latkes all week for my kids, teachers and faculty members at their school. So the house glows like oil, it smells like latkes and Hanukkah, and now we've got the melody. It's Hanukkah's come early this year. But it's a wonderful reminder again in these dark times of this festival of light, not only the light of the Hanukkah, but the light of religious freedom and pluralism. What an important reminder it is at this time of year. Page 271, Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom. והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני, הפורס סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים.
Page 272, Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. Yam barai dai dai, Shabbat Shabbat, yam barai dai dai, Shabbat Shabbat, yam barai dai dai, Shabbat Shabbat, Shabbat Shabbat Shalom. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ים בדאי דאי דאי, שבת שבת, ים בדאי דאי דאי, שבת שבת, ים בדאי דאי דאי, שבת שבת, שבת שבת. Shalom.
Adonai, Sephatai Tiftachu Fi Yagid Tehilatecha, eternal God, open up our lips that our mouths might find the words to speak with you in prayer. We rise for the Amidah, page 274.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor ve'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'koneh HaKol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, U'mevii geula livnei bneihem, Le'ma'an Shemo be'ava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah, Ata Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh metim atarav le'oshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh metim berachamim rabim, Tzomech noflim verofech olim, Umatir asurim, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך הסלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
Amen.
Please be seated. Page 279, Ritzeh.
Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu be'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ava tekabel u'tehi leratzon tamid avodat Yisrael Yisrael amecha El karov lechol korav pen עיני אל עבדיך וחוננו, שפוך רוחך עלינו, ותחזינה עינינו, בשובך לציון, ברחמים. ברוך אתה, אדוני, המחזיר שכינתו לציון, לציון.
So did you watch the soccer today at all? I'm not a soccer fan, but every 4 years I'm a soccer fan. And they were incredible games. And I mean, I loved the play on the field, but it was fascinating to me when they would do crowd shots, particularly towards the end of these games, and they went into overtime and then they went into shootouts. Everyone was praying. So much praying was going on in those stadiums. And since none of those teams actually came from Muslim countries, I think there was probably the largest amount of either non-Muslim or Christian prayer to ever take place in Qatar. And then their teams won or their teams lost or whatever it was. And there were crowd shots afterwards, and everybody's cheering and celebrating, but nobody's praying anymore. So the prayers of bakashot, the prayers of request, of will my team win, can they score the goal or block the goal, those are offered with fervent devotion, piety like none other. And then when that prayer comes true, at least for half the people in the stadium maybe, nothing. Our siddur reminds us that we need to offer a prayer of choda'ah. We do a lot of kvetching in Judaism. We do a lot of requesting, a lot of please God this and please God that, and maybe sometimes not even please. But then we're reminded every week, every time we say the Amidah, so 3 times a day, of this prayer of gratitude, to acknowledge the blessings in our life, to acknowledge the times that our prayers are answered, or even the times that we just feel a sense of wholeness, when our prayers perhaps are still gone yet unfulfilled. So we take a moment for our own prayers of gratitude, be it for soccer or for something else.
On the bottom of page 280. ועל ניסך שבכל יום, ערב ובוקר וצהריים, מעולם קיווינו לך, מעולם קיווינו לך. הטוב כי לא חלו רחמך, והמרחם כי לא תמו חסדיך, מעולם קיווינו לך, מעולם קיווינו לך.
A prayer for peace, Shalom Rav, page 282.
שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל, בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, Tasim leolam, tasim leolam, tasim leolam.
We take a moment of Tefillat Shabbat, the silent prayers and meditations of the heart.
We say, may the words that we prayed in our hearts be acceptable, make their way to that higher power, to Adonai, page 285. Yiyu leratzonim refi ve'yon libi. Yiyu leratzonim refi ve'yon libi levanecha. Repeat after me. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri ve'goali, Adonai tzuri. Together, Adonai tzuri ve'goali. Go inside your heart, just be. Go inside your heart and see what it wants, what it needs, what it yearns when you breathe. Go inside your heart and see. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be kind, be true. May they be acceptable to you, oh my rock and my redeemer.
We turn to page 371 as our thoughts turn to loved ones who are in need of prayers of healing and strength and courage in the midst of the illness and the challenges that they face. We ask God's blessing on Semach ben Menashe Halevi Varikla, Meyer Tzvi, Evelyn Pitka, Rebecca Dom, Rivka bat Shifton Baruch, Hannah bat Sarah Vashmul, Meir Zalman ben Rachel, Dr. Anahita Ariana, Daniel Gottesman, Bill Shaw, Vivian Garfinkel, Sarah Chiachi, Andrew Jason Bruce, Lawrence Down, Claire Columbia, Jack Karp, Dan Badesh, Victor Lewin, Fran Goldberg, Matt Good, Alicia Eckersley, Tsipa Bat-Ita, Leto and Jay, Alan Pitch, Asher Gavriel Ben Mordechai, Yehoshua Vasara Elishev, David Coulter, Apollina Wilshensky, Elena Cobb, Annette Albert, Carla Zavot, Doris Medved, Janet Gelb, Jean Angus, Judy Steiner Losberg, David Shlomo Gorney, Andrea Jarzabak. If there are others in need of this prayer for healing, I invite you to stand and call their names out now in the midst of our congregation. Be seated. We'll join together. Page 371 of Misha Berach, a prayer for healing.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekol HaBracha Ve'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe berach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Just to draw your attention to some announcements this evening. First of all, again, welcome those that are here for the first time or first time in a long time. We're so glad that you're here and that you were able to reunite, brother and sister. That's so wonderful. Tomorrow their service is at 10 a.m. Torah study, I think, is online tomorrow at 8:30. On Sunday, our religious school has the end of our term. So two things are going on that you might be interested in. One, there's an assembly at 10:30? No,
Yeah.
That doesn't sound right. Is that right?
I think it's at 10:30.
Okay, we'll go with 10:30. It's during the Ruach Rally slot, I think. Is that 10:30?
That's when it normally is.
Okay, 10:30. There's an assembly and all the classes have prepared something, so if you want to just come and get uplifted, that's a good time to do it. Also, on Sunday, our Hanukkah pop-up shop is happening right around that same time, so if you need candles or wrapping paper or dreidels or whatever, there's not too many places you can find it in Vancouver, but we ship it in. And you're welcome to come, and the money that's raised goes to our religious school. On Thursday, December 15th at 7 o'clock is our Torah-inspired leadership study group with our past president, Jeff Balin. The Torah portion, of course, is Vayeshev next week, and the theme is How Praise Can Empower. And that's via Zoom. Eastside Jews, our 20s and 30s group. No, Eastside Jews, our Young Families group. We have so many groups. On Friday, December 16th at 5:30 is having their Hanukkah Shabbat dinner and menorah making. You can sign up for that online. And also that weekend, beginning on Friday night, is our Sisterhood Shabbaton. And that's always a blast. The choir, I know, has been rehearsing for weeks and weeks. And so they will be leading the service with song and with prayer. So join for that. There's a whole bunch more going on, and you can read all about that online. So Shabbat Shalom. Sometimes I kind of wish that we didn't stream our services, because the topic that I want to talk with you about tonight, I think, is more of the kind that you would have around a family table conversation. One that I think we need to have, and I hope that we will understand, but I'm not so sure the rest of the world needs to hear it or will get it. But I'm also not so sure the rest of the world watches our services. Other than my mom, I'm not sure anybody watches our services, so we will see. I was just in Ottawa this past week for Hanukkah on the Hill. which, as everybody pointed out, was about 2 weeks early, but that's when all the leaders of the various parties in our political system could gather together in one place. I'd never been to Ottawa before, and I was honored to be on the guest list, and so I went to Ottawa, where it was warmer there than it is here, and went into a room with the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition and all the party leaders and just about every Jewish or Jewish-adjacent politician in our Canadian government and various agencies, and then a smattering of leaders of the Canadian Jewish community, of which I was humbled and honored to be a part of. And one by one, they got up to speak before the lighting of the Hanukkah, and to a person, as they got up to speak, every one of them talked about anti-Semitism. To a person, they got up and talked about how anti-Semitism is on the rise, rising particularly in parts of Canada, particularly in British Columbia, and how Jews are safe and protected here in Canada, that we are not, that they are not unaware of the challenges that we face to be Jewish and the security needs that we have. And the extra funding in our budget was mentioned, yes, for the Jay West project, the $25 million, but also for security in our synagogues, anti-Semitism, anti-Semitism, anti-Semitism. And it reminded me, and this is the other thing I like about being in this particular community, is in my previous congregations, there wasn't such a regular Shabbat community. I wouldn't necessarily have from one week to the next some of the same people, so I couldn't continue a conversation or return to a theme that anybody had any recollection of. And I'm about to return to a theme that I referenced back during the Colleyville hostage taking. Because I was listening to this talk and listening to them all talk about anti-Semitism, and I appreciated their concern for us. But I kept thinking of Dara Horn's book, whose title, as I've talked about before, is a sermon in itself. The title of the book is called People Love Dead Jews. And I kept thinking, gosh, they're only talking about anti-Semitism. They're only talking about how precarious it is to be Jewish in Canada and how we're going to be protected. Horn's main insight is that much of the way that we've developed to remember and narrate Jewish history is, at best, a bit of a self-deception. Of the 12 essays in her brilliant book, the different ways that we commemorate Jewish tragedy, how we write about the Holocaust, how the media presents anti-Semitic events, how we establish museums to honor Jewish heritage, how we read literature with Jewish protagonists, and even how we praise the righteous among the nations, those righteous non-Jews who saved Jews during the war, they're all actually distractions from the main issue, which is the very concrete, specific death of Jews. To be more precise, her thesis is that the world is really only interested in Jews as an example of suffering, of tragedy. More people can name dead Jews from the Shoah and Frank, Schindler's List, Elie Wiesel, who, thank God, did not die in the Shoah but made his life's work about remembering those who did. More people can name dead Jews than they can name Jewish artists, Jewish contributors to culture, to science, to music. If you go to Hollywood, or you not even go to Hollywood, if you just go to the movies or stream on Netflix, and you search Jewish films, do it. Let's see what comes up. It's Holocaust and massacre and Munich and Entebbe. Very few, now with Israel some more, but very few movies about Jewish culture, about Jewish heroes that are not, fighting against persecution. Jewish love stories, a Jewish Hanukkah movie. This projects one aspect, I think, of Jewish power. So I was thinking about what is the role of Jews in the political life of Canada. And coming as I do from the United States, where the role of the Jews of political life in the United States is very much in discussion, very much so today, what's the role of Jewish political life in Canada? And so projected one aspect of Jewish power which for centuries Jews have exploited, and that is Jews as eternal victims. I don't think there were any Jews in that room who were displeased that the Canadian government recognized anti-Semitism in that moment. And we trade on that a lot, and this is the part of the conversation where I kind of wish the camera was off. We trade on that. One of our ways of pulling the levers of power is have pity on us, notice us, protect us. That's a form of Jewish political power some of the Jewish communal response to anti-Semitism really plays into it. Help us, protect us. Society is measured by how it treats its Jews. We've said that before. If it can happen to us, it can happen to you, and so don't let it happen to us, never again. I used essentially that same argument before the city council when we were talking about the definition of anti-Semitism. It works. Hanukkah on the Hill about anti-Semitism, not about Jewish cultural contributions, not about Jewish music or poetry or science or industry. In fact, when we boast about our achievements, which is a pretty amazing story for such a small percentage of the population having such a profound influence, we run into other ways that Jews are perceived in the world. We play into another anti-Semitic trope, and this is the challenge of Judaism. David Bedell talks about this in his, now it's a movie, it was a book, or now it's a TV show, now it's a book. Which name is escaping me, and I just watched it this afternoon. But we play into this other theme, this other trope of Jews of power. That Jews are powerful and controlling and ever-present, and with that comes opportunistic and conniving. And so this highlights two long-existing problems for Jews in Western society, and the two problems I was thinking about as I was standing in that room off of the Parliament in Ottawa. One of the problems is that the nations of the world, many of them, blame their dysfunction on Jews. Even if they have no Jewish population at all, they blame their dysfunction, whatever it is, on Jews. And that is anti-Semitism. The other is the relation of Jews to power and how tricky it is for Jews who are at times a persecuted and not persecuted, powerful and not powerful, oppressed or oppressor type of people, in the views of whomever, never on the right side of that. How do we govern? How do we exert power? How do we use power? Ruth Weiss offers the following. She says that the creation of the state of Israel solved one crisis, and that is Jewish dispersion, by resurrecting the Jewish homeland, by bringing a vast amount of Jews back to one place. But it didn't solve those two problems. It didn't solve the problem of nations blaming us for their dysfunction. It didn't solve the problem of how Jews exercise power. In fact, it probably exacerbated it. She says, Zionist thinkers had expected sovereignty result in political normalization without being able to anticipate the role that a tiny Jewish state might play in the international struggle for power. She goes on, in trying to withstand the Arab assault, Israelis, Jews, and concerned third parties tripped again and again over the same issue of power that had impeded the development of Jewish political history to begin with. If historians once mistook the absence of sovereignty to mean that Jews stood outside of politics, then modern students of the problem too often assumed that the resumption of sovereignty, having our own nation, having our own land again, guaranteed political power, guaranteed political parity between Israel and the other nations. Because we had a nation now, we should be treated like all other nations. Right? There's that famous, well, I'll leave that out. Jews were said to have reversed their political fortunes once they began governing themselves, and an Arab minority in a country of their own, equating statehood with power. Those experts confused Zionism's potential with its achievement, as if the acquired option of Jewish self-deference had erased Arab advantages of numbers and resources and land. David Biel, another historian, has another view. And I think it's an important one for us to consider. And again, it's the kind of stuff you talk about just around the table. He saw Jewish power in powerlessness. He located power in situations of prolonged political dependency and powerlessness, in situations where Jews tried to rule over themselves. That's when we didn't have power. Thus, he considered periods of Jewish sovereignty merely preludes to political defeat. Ultimately, he says, the victory of the Hasmoneans, the heroes of the Maccabean period, of Hanukkah, led actually to the destruction of the temple itself. Defeat, on the other hand, leads to the advantageous political dependency that results. The failure of the revolt against the Romans ultimately led to the greater stability and therefore greater Jewish power. And by stability, Biel means the internal Jewish governance of the rabbis under foreign control. That function of ultimately in these judgments is to make the diaspora the preferred condition of Jewish political life because it lacks the anxieties of political rule. Just to unpack that a little further, if we know the story of the destruction of the Second Temple and Yochanan ben Zakkai, why was the temple destroyed? Because the Jews had power in that land and a greater force came in and wanted it. And so in that sense, having sovereignty was actually dangerous for Jews. Exercising power was dangerous for Jews. Yochanan ben Zakkai, seeing this, seeing that the Jewish people are going to be wiped out if they keep fighting, sneaks out of the old city, sneaks out of Jerusalem, goes to the commanding officer, the general of the army that's besieging it, and says, look, we'll give up. You can have our power. You can have it all. We'll go to Yavna. We'll go to this place down by the sea, by the beach, and I'll take my students and we're going to write the Mishnah. I don't know if he explained what the Mishnah was, but that's what we're going to do. And the Romans said, what a great deal. You're going to give up your power. We don't have to fight anymore. And there, Judaism actually thrived. Because behind the scenes, under the radar, nobody seemed to care about us, and we wrote rabbinic Judaism. Well, not me, but they did. We did better when we were not sovereign. But of course, that's the tricky part of the world we live in, the challenge presented both in Israel and as Jews exert their influence around the world. Think about the exclusive motif of Jewish folk tales, Hasidic tales. Right? It's never about Jews rising up and fighting back against the pogrom, right? Against the Cossacks that came in. Those are not the stories we tell. The stories we tell are the wise Jews who avoided the pogrom, who got out early, who managed to trick the Cossacks into thinking we were here, but we were actually there. Or that God comes in, swoops in, and miraculously, poetically, giving them their just due, comes in and saves the Jewish people. Ironically. What changes this is that Jews, primarily through Israel, have something to offer the world. Science and innovation, medicine and technology. Power is not just military. Power is when you make yourself indispensable, when you make yourself of value to other societies in the world. That's a form of power. We think a lot about military power, but there's an interesting story in history before the start of the Shoah. You ever heard of something called the Fugu Plan? So the Fugu Plan, Marvin Tokier wrote an incredible book about it. I read it when I was in high school. The Japanese didn't really have much of a modern financial system, modern for the day, in the 1930s. So they imported 10,000 Jews from Germany who were saved from the Shoah to set up their economic system. That's Jewish power too. Having something that is to offer the world that is indispensable. We see it today with Israeli technology and medical advancements. We see it also with Jewish innovation in the arts, in entertainment. As much as it is mocked and derided, entertainment is currency in the world we live in. And Jews, because of our history of laughing, I think, at our oppressors and laughing at our place in history, and our history of storytelling, have created a commodity there that is truly valuable in our world. And so this is the lesson that I took from Ottawa. There is great potential in the Abraham Accords, making Israel as valuable a contributor to the Arab economies and countries as Arab oil is to Western countries. But it's not a static situation. It does not change overnight, and it will always run the risk of resentment. The lesson that I took from Ottawa is that at this time in history, the Jewish people have much more to be proud of, and that pride in our accomplishments are a brighter light than the darkest of our fears. We have land and we have power, both quiet behind the scenes power and increasingly in front in the public eye. We have a vibrant and expanding Jewish culture. We have much to offer the world, much that the world needs right now. And yes, we still have anti-Semitism. It's not going away. But perhaps more assuredly than ever before, we can affirmatively say, Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people are alive, in all the meaning of the word alive. That in spite of everything, we are here, not going anywhere. And we should not let anyone cause us to cower in a corner out of our own fear or insecurity, least of all, ourselves. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
We'll continue. We'll rise for Aleinu, page 586.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוצר שמיים ויסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו. וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת. אין עוד. The middle of page 590. כי המלכות שלך היא, ולעולמי תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Is Sharon here in the room? Okay. Our thoughts turn to loved ones who are not with us, whose memory, though, very much is. A reading before the Kaddish prayer. Page 595. It's hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and naught but memory can fill the emptiness that passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in the company of those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world, and each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one, whose life now ended, brought us closer to the source of life, and in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. On this Shabbat, we recall those who died during this past week or past 30 days, whose families are in the midst of Shiva and Shloshim. As I read the name of your loved one, please rise here or at home as we remember them with you. Shelley Superstein Alexander, David Corbin, Betty Levy, and those for whom the Yortzeit, the anniversary of the death of your loved one, is on this Shabbat, if you too could rise as I read their name. Sonia Ackerman, Beryl Balanetsky, Faye Belogas, Rose Berger, John Cohen, Sylvia Kosorba, Judy Firestone, Shirley Fishman, Lily Frinton, Phyllis May Gallen, Edith Gecker, Shirley Gorman, Jack Green, Jan Greenberg, Florence Halperin, Marjorie Hamilton, Samuel Heller, Ziva Hendel, Francis Enriquez, Princess Cantor, Alice Knott, Sophie Cohn, Toby Lennett, Harold Lennett, Lily Libben, Hugo Lowenstein, Ruth Mishler, Harry Ozier, Sharon Pekarsky-Cairns, Muriel Rothschild, Louis Rudin, Sarah Sayre, Judith Schachter, Jose Scriven, Mary Schaefer, Sarah Slobinski, Glenn Silklas, Molly Sudak, Catherine Levin Stencil, Leonard Stein, Eduardo Tesler Mabe, Boris Ben Abraham Tushinalak, David Unterman, Albert Jacob Van Haren, Neil Ian Weinstock, Peter Pashea Zaks. If there are other names that I've missed or mispronounced, if you've come to say Kaddish for any reason, if you could rise and share the name of your loved one as well. We rise and join those who are in mourning to stand by their side as we recite Kadisha Tome, recalling all of our loved ones and all of those that have no one left to remember them. We recall them for blessing. Page 598, Kadisha Tome. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yomad yivrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'hayei l'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'maru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh v'yit adar v'yit aleh v'yit alal shemei kudisha b'richu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata daminron be'alma v'maru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'maru amen. Osei shalom imromav huya asei shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yakol yoshvei tevel v'maru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort the bereaved among us, and we say together, amen. We remain standing. I think Cantor Cohen's going to lead us in Kiddush and Motzi. And then we'll join a closing song, and then, of course, there's an oneg in our social hall.
בערב ויבוקר יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. Savri, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei veri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yahava u'v'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh זכר ליציאת מצרים, כי באנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. חיים. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המוציא לחם מן הארץ.
Now the cantor does the I've got to finish chewing before I sing the Don Olam challenge.
Page 625. I'll need your help. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא אחד ואין שני להמשילו להכבירה בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמשרה והוא אלי וחי גואלי בצורך בלי בצרה והוא ניסי ומנוס לי בנץ כוסי ויום אקרא בידו אפקיד רוחי בית אישן והעירה ועם רוחי גביעתי אדוני לי ולא יירא.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Join us in our social hall, please, for a bit of a treat.